those who would trade our freedom for security have embarked on this downward course. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is on now.
Hey, folks, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being with us. We appreciate it. We can't do the show without you listening every single day. You found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality, where we are building a liberty machine. Telephone number 870-275-9799. It is Johnny Cash Friday. We'll get to Johnny Cash music for those of you listening on terrestrial radio here in just a moment. We want to listen to as much Cash music as we can, while at the same time peppering in the news and events of the day and the week. A couple of things that one thing that I've missed. I mean, we have done a pretty good job of highlighting what went on with the Arkansas State Police and the Arkansas legislature a couple of weeks ago. Well, this was back on June the 18th, so really 4 weeks ago. And this controversial hearing they had where they disagreed on the interpretation of constitutional carry, permitless carry in the state of Arkansas based on what the law says. State police not admitting, not respecting the legislative branch, not respecting the judicial branch, just completely, in my opinion, ignoring what the status of Arkansas gun laws are here in the state of Arkansas. So we've done, 2-3 really good interviews on this with the folks at Patriots VAC 746, and we've played some of the audio of that. But I kind of thought today, at some point, we're going to get into this full video because we've only kind of heard little sound bites here or there. We haven't gone through and actually listened to everything John Payton had to say, to listen to everything Richard Womack had to say, and others, Terry Rice, Bob Ballinger. And I think that would be a good thing, considering we're talking about our natural right to self-defense, and this is a video that if you haven't seen, you need to see it. So, excuse me. So we're going to do that today on this Johnny Cash Friday. We're also going to get into the news, and we're going to be talking with Congressman Bruce Westerman coming up at 7:33 this morning. We'll be talking, I'm sure, about the squad. Now, speaking of the squad, we now have the Democrats saying that Trump's rally, and when I say the Democrats, I mean AOC, because now when you say the Democrats, it can just be AOC that says something, and that means that it's the Democrats, right? The Democrats are now saying that Trump's rallies endanger millions of people. Yeah, I know, right? Isn't it fun? Isn't it fun? I mean, the rhetoric just gonna keep going, gonna ramp up more and more. Yeah. AOC says that the rallies themselves are putting people's lives in danger. This is apparently all about women as well. This concerns every woman in America, according to Whoopi Goldberg. Also, the front page of Drudge all day yesterday was this: Trump turns on MAGA, disavows send her back chant, Dems call for increased security. Now, there's a bill I think they're going to run about increased security because they feel unsafe, because now they are saying that the chant of the North Carolina crowd, by the way, it's North Carolina. It's not South Carolina. It's not Alabama. It's not Mississippi. It's a bunch of Trump supporters in North Carolina. It's a bunch of Trump supporters in North Carolina that were saying send her back. The only reason I say that is because I think there's a lot of crowds at Trump rallies that would have said the same thing, considering what the president had tweeted, that they need to go back, on Sunday. Yeah, all that being said, am I comfortable with the send her back chant? I mean, it is what it is. It happened, so I'm comfortable with it, I guess. I mean, I guess I can see why people say, she's an American citizen. This is kind of borderline. This is crossing a line. Okay, all right, yeah, sure, it's a crossing a line. Again, yesterday's comments from Greg Gutfeld, which was, compared the rally to more of a sporting event where people just say stuff. And how do you know? How in the world are we supposed to be able to interpret whether or not the crowd is trolling people? The way the president trolls people online, also, you could make the argument his rallies are very much, tongue-in-cheek and things like that. But, of course, the left thinks now that send her back is equated with violence. Like, there are all these Trump supporters that are all of a sudden going to start, going looking for Ilhan Omar so they can assault her and, drag her back to Somalia, which is preposterous as well. I'd love to know what you guys think about this. You can sound off on the Facebook page, facebook.com/Conduit News. Trump, quote, disavow. Now, let's talk about the Drudge headline for a second. There is and has been in the mainstream media since 2016 an attempt to divide the hardcore loyal Trump base. And they try to do this by saying the president's not really building the wall. They try to do this by saying the president is failing on the things he promised to do, which if you actually look at some of the other things that he's done, he keeps actually doing what he says he's going to do. It's actually, the Heritage Foundation even put out a thing on this about, his successful first year, a more successful first year than Ronald Reagan. But I just think it's interesting here on the front page of Drudge Report, which you see this a lot on Drudge now. Trump turns on MAGA, disavows send her back chant, Dems call for increased security. So we now have another attempt to, I think publicly divide Trump from his base. Will it work? No, it's not going to work. No, it's not going to work. President Trump on Thursday chided his supporters who chanted send her back. This is from the AP. When he questioned the loyalty of a Somali-born congresswoman, joining widespread criticism of the campaign crowd's cry after Republicans warned about political blowback from the angry scene. In a week that is corkscrewed daily with hostile exchanges over race and love of country, Trump also claimed he had tried to stop the chant at a re-election event Wednesday night in North Carolina, though the video shows otherwise. The crowd sent her back, shouts resounding 13 seconds. So, of course, we got to have the media. Well, how long was it was 13 seconds long. Really? 13 seconds. What a difference 13 seconds can make in someone's political analysis or political career or whatever. 13 seconds. Now, Trump did say he started speaking really quickly, and the reporters are saying, no, you waited 13 seconds before you spoke. You waited 13 seconds before you spoke. 13 seconds, not long enough. That's a long time, according to the media, the press. Yeah, it is a long time. If you go watch the video. Actually, if you go watch the video, I think, and I watched this live. Joe, I don't know if you watched this live, but I watched this live. And I heard somebody yell in the back, send her back, before the chant started. And I thought, whoa, I was like, whoa. And then he kept talking, and he finished his remarks, and then that woman, send her back. And then the whole crowd erupted in that chant. And when that happened, I was like, wow, this, that this will be a story. I knew it would be a story tomorrow. I didn't know how big, but I knew it would be a story tomorrow. Or the next day. Yeah, now it's the story. We'll see. I think, again, the president or his movement does X, the left does Y, and, at this point, the stuff that the Democrats end up doing to ramp this stuff up is, it's just highlighting the difference. Listen, I think the president should have taken on Ilhan Omar and the squad the way, probably not exactly the way he did, but the sentiment is based in truth, which is these people are anti-Semites, and they are also socialists, and they do have a problem with America as it is. They really do, and that's, look at this story here from the Daily Caller. The Daily Wire. And I think this is kind of the genesis of all of this. There's a town in Ilhan Omar's district that decided to end the Pledge of Allegiance before city council meetings. They did this in the name of diversity. Now, I think this is the genesis of Trump really being like, hang on, who are these women again, and why are they so unhappy with the country? Why are they so anti-American? So there's this town, let's see, after widespread backlash. Now, the town has reversed its decision, but listen to this. This is back on July 18th, so yesterday. After widespread backlash, including from President Trump, city officials in a town in Minnesota located in Democratic Representative Ilhan Omar's district have apologized for voting to eliminate the Pledge of Allegiance during city council meetings in an attempt to encourage diversity. So we need to make sure that there are people that feel welcome at our city council meeting that hate America. As the Daily Wire reported in a unanimous 5-0 vote back on June 17th, so a month ago, the St. Louis Park City Council voted to drop the Pledge of Allegiance from meetings in order to create a more welcoming environment to a diverse community. We concluded that in order to create a more welcoming environment to a diverse community, we're going to forego saying the Pledge of Allegiance before every meeting. Not everyone who does business with the city or has a conversation is a citizen, said City Council member Ann Mavity, who sponsored the change in policy. They certainly don't need to come into City Council chambers and pledge their allegiance to a country in order to tell us what their input is about a sidewalk in front of their home. I hope it's not too controversial. Our community tends to be a very welcoming and increasingly diverse community, and we believe our citizens will understand. Yeah, that drew a tweet from the president on July 11th. The Pledge of Allegiance to our great country in St. Louis Park, Minnesota is under siege, the president tweeted. That is why I'm going to win the great state of Minnesota in the 2020 election. People are sick and tired of this stupidity and disloyalty to our wonderful USA. That's a whole nother wrinkle in this that no one's really talked about, is president taking on the squad to try to win Minnesota. There might be a lot of Minnesotans. I'm talking about the Minnesotans that voted for the, Jesse the Body Ventura. There might be a lot of Minnesotans that are like, I'm embarrassed for my state. This is ridiculous. Go ahead, Joe.
You know what's next?
What?
During the Olympics, when we win a medal, the national anthem won't play. They'll play in other countries.
Probably.
That's what's next.
If we keep going this way, and you already have some Olympic athletes that don't even want to, stand for the, or they've got a problem during that whole presentation,
Yeah, and it won't even be, because we don't have a national anthem anymore, because we'll be taken over another country. It's just, we'll be America, and they'll be like, this is racist playing America.
Yeah.
Playing America's
it's racist for an American to win anything, I guess, or to be exceptional in anything. Oh, you know what's interesting about Jesse the Body Ventura? Now, I know a lot of people don't like him because there was some dust up between Chris Kyle's wife, Chris Kyle's widow, and but if you go watch The Predator, and I mean the original Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jesse the Body Ventura, and oh man, I can't believe I'm forgetting Action Jackson's name. You gonna give that up, and you gonna concentrate on golf. What's his name? What is Carl Weathers? Carl Weathers. That's from Happy Gilmore.
I know where the quote's from.
Yeah.
I was just like, I don't know his
You're
name.
gonna concentrate on golf. No, alligator bit my hand off.
Just tap it.
All right, so
just tap it.
What's interesting is if I was watching the Honest trailer for The Predator. Honest trailer is this, yeah, which is what I think that might be the best Honest trailer they've ever done, because they did a whole thing where they compared what Arnold Schwarzenegger did to the Predator in that movie to Kevin McAllister in Home Alone. And the amount of trees and traps that Arnold sets for the Predator at the end of the movie, spoiler alert, versus what Kevin McAllister did to Joe Pesci and the guys in Home Alone, and they play them right beside each other. It's really funny. But anyway, when he gets to the starring, it says starring the future governor of California, the future governor of Minnesota, and I didn't realize this, but there's another character. The Hispanic guy who actually ran for governor of Kentucky. He lost, but he ran for governor of Kentucky. starring the almost future governor of Kentucky. It's anyway, something to think about. It's telephone number 870-275-9799. The Predator, the original Predator, really holds up well, by the way, even by today's standards. Still holds up really well. Way better than all the remakes, I think. We're going to take a break. 870-275-9799. Back in just a moment.
It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Hi, folks. Paul Harrell here. For those that can't catch Conduit News Radio with me on the radio every morning from 6 a.m. to 8, don't panic. You can always listen anytime on our digital platforms using your smartphone or computer. In this video, I'm here to help you navigate to the many options you have to watch or listen to the show across our digital platforms. First, you can catch the show on Facebook. Just use your internet browser and type in facebook.com/Conduit News. From there, select Videos on the left side of your screen. From there, you can watch the full 2-hour show each day or select specific interviews you want to watch. Another place you can watch the show is on YouTube. Just use your internet browser and type in youtube.com. Then, in the search bar, search for Conduit News. Select the Conduit News page as it appears. While here, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell to receive notifications when new videos are ready. From YouTube, you can also watch every live show daily and all the interviews I have with guests. More options are available at our website, conduitnews.com. Select the Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell tab. Here, you can watch each day's show live or watch old episodes and interviews. You can also catch audio-only versions of the show right here on this page of the website. For audio-only versions of the show, you have some options. For Apple iPhone users, simply use the podcast app and search Conduit News. Subscribe to the podcast and get each hour of the show automatically in your app daily. You can also download the SoundCloud app from your app store and search Conduit News to find your station. And that goes for Android users as well. Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We want to make sure you get the latest on Arkansas news and politics. You have many options to know what government is doing in your name and with your tax dollars. Learn more at conduitnews.com.
It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Hi, folks. Paul Harrell here. For those that can't catch Conduit News Radio with me on the radio every morning from 6 a.m. to 8, don't panic. You can always listen anytime on our digital platforms using your smartphone or computer. In this video, I'm here to help you navigate to the many options you have to watch or listen to the show across our digital platforms. First, I want to introduce, it's always great to have Dr. Jeremy Horpadal on the program. Jeremy, how are you doing, sir?
I'm great, Paul. How are you this morning?
I'm great. Now, I want to remind everybody, Jeremy is with the Arkansas Center for Research in Economics. I wanted to have you on because I know we talked about this before, but your study on special elections is so good. We talked about it before, but we still have, in Arkansas, a string of special elections. There's, been one in Fort Smith. There's been some in Central Arkansas. There's one coming up right after school starts in Jonesboro to try to raise taxes. And, your research, well, let me just start there. What made you want to do this research?
So I got interested in this actually as I was working on another project. We wrote a big book on taxes in Arkansas, about 100 pages long, and as we were doing the research for that book, I came across all this great data on special elections. I was actually able to get data on almost every election going back to the early 1980s, and as an economist, I get really excited when I see this big set of data, and I thought, what can I do with this? And looking at special elections and when do they pass and when do they fail, That's something that you see in the news, like you said. There's one somewhere almost every month. So I just started looking at that data, and I think we got some pretty interesting results here. One of the main results, I think, as we've talked about before, is that most of these, and we look at sales tax elections, which are the vast majority of these special elections, almost all of them, 80%, take place during sometime other than a general or primary election. So 83% are during either it's a standalone election or it's at some time other than a general or primary election. And what we also found is that voter turnout is much, much lower during these special elections. We found that on average, voter turnout is only 19% for these special elections, whereas it's over 40% for general elections. And then finally, the other thing, which I think is the main result, is that these tax increases, sales tax increases, are much more likely to pass during a special election. 3/4 of them pass if they're during a special election, and fewer than half pass if it's during a general election.
And that's to me is sad, because if it were an emergency, let's say a tornado comes through town, okay, go for it. But there are people who are you're an economist, so there are people who are at work. They're trying to put food on their family. They're trying they're trying to put food on the table for their family, and they're doing these things, and they pretty much know, what, you vote once every 2 years. You really have the big vote once every 4 years. Coming down that railroad track. All right, welcome back. 870-275-9799. A couple of your thoughts. Oh, by the way, in the Paul from the Past that you're playing, Joe, you see that shirt that I'm wearing? It looks orange, but it was a pink shirt, but it was recorded orange. People, I guess because of the lighting, salmon color. A nice medium rare salmon. Anyway, I'm hungry this morning. You do? Fish is amazing. Why don't you like it?
I've never really liked fish.
Yeah.
I like shrimp.
Somebody on Facebook yesterday said the reason I wore the orange shirt was so I could blend in and actually make the future felons of Arkansas feel comfortable. Or maybe the ones that are already felons, that are in the orange. So I'll be able to blend in with them and get some good interviews with,
No, you're trying to garner support with the prison system, and especially the people that are in prison. So
former elected solidarity with
so for when you run for governor later,
or in jail.
For when you run for governor later in your life, and at that point the law has passed that people in prison can vote. You're trying to garner it now.
Oh, okay.
It's the long con.
I gotcha. Well, that's so many inaccuracies in the statement that you just said, by the way. That's not ever going to happen. 870-275-9799. Let's see here. I was asking you guys, what do you think about this, the squad, everything, Omar, Trump. Jackie writes on Facebook, Omar put forth a resolution in the House for Congress yesterday to validate BDS, an organization whose sole goal is to wipe Israel off the face of the earth. I'd say she's anti-Semitic. Yeah, Jackie, you're right. And there is this article over at the Daily Wire in direct response to this. Ilhan Omar is wrong. Here is why anti-BDS laws are perfectly constitutional. These anti-boycott Israel laws. I'll give you that story next, as well as a lot of others. Jeffrey Epstein denied bail. That is going to be a huge story because we've now got 2,000 documents that are going to be released from a court, supposedly outing very popular or very well-known officials. Back in a minute.
It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Hi, folks. Paul Harrell here. For those that can't catch Conduit News Radio with me on the radio every morning from 6 a.m. to 8, don't panic. You can always listen anytime on our digital platforms using your smartphone or computer. In this video, I'm here to help you navigate to the many options you have to watch or listen to the show across our digital platforms. First, you can catch the show on Facebook.
Just use your internet browser and type in facebook.com/Conduit News. From there, select Videos on the left side of your screen. From there, you can watch the full 2-hour show each day or select specific interviews you want to watch. Another place you can watch the show is on YouTube. Just use your internet browser and type in youtube.com. Then, in the search bar, search for Conduit News. Select the Conduit News page as it appears. While here, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell to receive notifications when new videos are ready. From YouTube, you can also watch every live show daily and all the interviews I have with guests. More options are available at our website, conduitnews.com. Select the Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell tab. Here, you can watch each day's show live or watch old episodes and interviews. You can also catch audio-only versions of the show right here on this page of the website. For audio-only versions of the show, you have some options. For Apple iPhone users, simply use the podcast app and search Conduit News. Subscribe to the podcast and get each hour of the show automatically in your app daily. You can also download the SoundCloud app from your app store and search Conduit News to find your station. And that goes for Android users as well. Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We want to make sure you get the latest on Arkansas news and politics. You have many options to know what government is doing in your name and with your tax dollars. Learn more at conduitnews.com.
And that's pretty much it. The rest of the time, a lot of people don't even listen to the news except once every 4 years to figure out who they want to vote for president. And that's the way a lot of people work. And they're not looking into, their local tax rate. But if they actually got a vote, if they were there during the general election, most of your hardworking Arkansans don't want to pay more taxes. They want the taxes to stay where they are.
Yeah, and I think one other type of election, which are school board elections, those used to kind of be at just any time the school district wanted to set it before. A few years ago, the legislature said, we're still going to have it be a standalone election, but we're at least going to put it on a regular date so people can expect it. So school board elections now they're special in the sense that they're a standalone election, but they have it on a regular date. There have been bills in the legislature the past 2 sessions to do the same thing for these tax elections, these tax votes, but it hasn't gotten through. So there are people trying to get this changed. And actually, the title of the bill says, the goal of this is to increase voter turnout. That's explicitly what they're trying to do. Make sure everyone is having a chance to be aware of the election and have a say. But as of yet, none of those have passed. So the cities and counties can still hold these with a lot of discretion as to when the election is.
We're talking with Dr. Jeremy Horpedahl from the Arkansas Center for Research and Economics. He's also an associate professor at the University of Central Arkansas. So I can't help. So, Jew hater extraordinaire, Representative Ilhan Omar. That's according to Josh Hammer. Those are his words. Josh Hammer, reporter at the Daily Wire. Jew. That's how he starts his piece. Jew hater extraordinaire, Representative Ilhan Omar. Let's see. She of Jews have dual loyalty, or she has said Jews have. I think you do have this. No, you don't. But if you go to the front page of the Daily Wire, let's see. Jews have dual loyalty, and support for Israel is only due to monetary interest and fame. It is. Let's see. Omar, whose membership in the 2020 electoral suicide squad has launched her, along with fellow American-hating Marxist zealots, even more firmly into the national spotlight. I like this guy. I don't know if I've ever read an article from him. So we keep going, and let's see. He says, yes, really, it's a testament to Ilhan Omar's obsessive hatred of Jews that she is using the moment of her highest celebrity ratings to advance the anti-Jewish BDS movement. People who know BDS. Omar, who, when she wasn't reportedly defrauding the U.S. government, engaged in a systemic defrauding of Jewish voters in her Minnesota congressional district, decided to use her national platform this week to highlight just how strongly she feels about hurting, penalizing, and undermining the political and economic interests of global Jewry. As the Daily Wire has reported, Omar introduced this week a House resolution that affirms Americans' purported right to engage the facially anti-Semitic boycott, divestment, and sanctions campaign that seeks the ultimate destruction of the world's only Jewish state. Omar, whose popularity among swing voters rivals that of the bubonic plague, introduced the resolution by flaunting her vile Jew-hating credentials for the world to see in hitherto unprecedentedly brazen fashion, comparing the genocidal BDS campaign, which seeks the annihilation of the state of Israel and the tossing of all the Juden into the Mediterranean, to the lineage of proud American boycotting that dates all the way back to the Boston Tea Party itself. Omar's resolution furthermore directly compares the free, liberalized, pluralistic state of Israel to genocidal Nazi Germany, the Gulag state that was the Soviet Union, and apartheid South Africa. There are truly no words to describe this monstrous level of moral obtuseness, this unfathomable level of sheer stupidity. If I were a voter in Minnesota's 5th Congressional District who helped send such a contemptible ignoramus to the United States Congress, I'd hide my head in a bag for years. This is hilarious. But Omar's resolution, if taken at face value, does not actually offer direct substantive support for BDS. Rather, the resolution amounts to a procedural and legal affirmation of a purported constitutional right to engage in BDS. The direct text resolved that the House of Representatives, quote, affirms that all Americans have the right to participate in boycotts in pursuit of civil and human rights, opposes unconstitutional legislative efforts to limit the use of boycotts, urges Congress, states, and civil rights leaders from all communities to endeavor to preserve the freedom of advocacy by or for all by opposing anti-boycott resolutions and legislation. Now, this has an Arkansas connection. Arkansas Times was pretty upset. I think one of their contractors, they tried to sue because they were being asked to sign a contract that said that they denounced these Israel boycotts. Of course, they lost, but is the anti-Semitic BDS movement actually constitutionally secured by the First Amendment? The short answer is no, not really. A law professor and constitutional law expert Eugene Kontrovich, I don't know. I give up. Explaining to the Washington Post in 2017, it is the distinction between expression and commercial conduct that makes all the constitutional difference in the world, whereas David French helpfully framed it at the National Review today. Institutional discrimination that is targeted in its bigotry against Israelis due merely to national origin is statutorily illegal under the 1977 Export Administration Act and is in no way constitutionally protected by the First Amendment. Anyway, you know what? All that aside, can you believe? I mean, the mainstream media, of course, they're now covering North Carolinians saying send her back, and instead of saying, hey, maybe these North Carolina people just don't like Ilhan Omar being an anti-Semite. Has anyone even brought that up? Maybe there's a lot of North Carolinians who are not bigoted at all. They just don't like people who, lament the way the word Al-Qaeda is used in academic settings in American classrooms, which she has. And they don't like people who don't like the Jew. By the way, it's also interesting that we should expect all of it. We would never how do I need to say this? We shouldn't be surprised. Like, headline: Muslim Congresswoman hates Jews. What? Are you serious? That's unbelievable. 870-275-9799. Jeffrey Epstein has been denied bail. This is a big deal. I was so thankful for this. I mean, I can't tell you how thankful I was. I was so worried that they were going to let this guy loose in his 27,000 square foot mansion. They're just going to say, oh, house arrest. If this man would have been released on bail, and the certainty I say this with should let you know just how serious the fact that he is arrested and being prosecuted is. For the elite, for those who are involved in Jeffrey Epstein's circles, which we don't know. It could have been a blackmail operation. It could be much worse than that, but he's been doing this for years. I say this with certainty. If this man would have been out on bail, he would have fled or been killed, period. He would have left the country. He would have put up he was willing to put up $100 million. He was willing to put up all the diamonds he had, everything. This man would have fled the country, or he would have been killed. Maybe both. I'm certain of it. I am certain of it. And I know it's speculation, but I'm just saying I'm so glad this guy was denied bail. So, this is from, let's go to CNBC first. Yes, keep ad blocker on. Yes, I'm going to keep ad blocker on. Jeffrey Epstein's lust for young girls appears uncontrollable, according to the judge, and that's why he's being denied bail. Federal judge denied bail to wealthy investor Jeffrey Epstein, citing the potential danger he poses to the public and the risk that Epstein will be murdered. No, I added that part. That was me. The risk that Epstein will flee to avoid prosecution for child sex trafficking. Epstein asked the judge to release him on bond for as much as $100 million or more, with conditions that he would include requiring him to remain in New York, with round-the-clock security monitoring and an this says trafficking device. I think they mean tracking device. Oh, man, what an unintended pun. We've said so. We've been talking about child sex trafficking for so long. We say electronic trafficking device. No. Electronic tracking device. Epstein, a former friend of Presidents Donald Trump and Bill Clinton. No, they got to throw that in there. Oh man, isn't it amazing that NBC, they got to make sure that you know that Epstein was friends with Bill Clinton and Donald Trump, because Donald Trump's the president now. And they've got the video now of the 1992 party. Have you seen this, Joe? They've got the video of a 1992 party with Trump and Epstein and a whole bunch of beautiful women who are clearly, I think they were the cheerleaders for the Miami Dolphins and some professional teams down there. And they're all clearly of legal age. And, Trump had just been divorced, and, he's partying with them. He's like, he looks at Epstein, and he's like, oh, that girl's hot right there. And this NBC, they treated this like this was this giant scoop, seeing a young 1992 recently divorced Donald Trump actually dancing. Oh, and by the way, and I just have to say this, if you go watch the video, apparently Trump is right. Women will allow you to touch them because Donald Trump is a billionaire who was just divorced, and every one of those girls was like, pick me, pick me, pick me, pick me. Oh, we're having so much fun. Oh, you think I'm the hot one? No, she's the hot one. I'm the hot one. Me. It's like Night at the Roxbury reversed. So all I'm saying is that's at least how I took the video. So they want to equate, and of course they leave out the fact that in 2002, Donald Trump was the one that outed Jeffrey Epstein to New York Magazine as liking women on the young side. So 10 years later, somewhere between 92 and 2002, Donald Trump figured out Epstein, something's not right with Epstein, okay? And then in 2005, he kicked him out of his Mar-a-Lago club. You know, if Epstein was running a blackmail operation, ask yourself this question. If Epstein had something on you, you think you would kick him out of your Mar-a-Lago club? No. Apparently, Trump wasn't scared of Epstein at all because he said, get out of here. We're not going to have you trying to recruit. Reportedly it was was a daughter of one of the staff members at Mar-a-Lago. Epstein was attempting to recruit and abuse. Donald Trump said, you're out. And the media wants you to, again, headline, billionaires, party together in the same circle. And anyway, it was back in 1992. Now, I'm not saying it's completely outside the realm of possibility that there might be something, some more evidence that we don't know. But I'll tell you this: the president, when it comes to Epstein, does not appear worried at all that this has anything to do with him. Bill Clinton, on the other hand, with the photos of him with his arms around what appears to be a 14, 15-year-old girl on a plane, and the 26 times that he flew, and the times that we have victims who say that Bill Clinton was on the island. We now have people that are looking into the temple on the island that ABC News is dismissing as a gym. Did you hear about this, Joe? ABC News, now that everyone's looking at this very, very strange temple on Pedophile Island, and people are wondering, why would you build something like that? They're now saying, oh, it was really just a gym. Oh, okay. Okay. It was a place to work out. Okay. All right. How stupid do you think we are? I mean, and by the way, for the sheep out there, it's just a way to redirect people to say, do not continue researching this. Do not continue asking what drives people to prey on the most vulnerable amongst us. Don't ask that question. So anyway, again, a CNBC Epstein, a friend of Presidents Donald Trump and Bill Clinton, was arrested on July 6th after a federal grand jury indicted him on charges of sex trafficking and one count of conspiring to commit sex trafficking. Stop. Moving to Zero Hedge. I really loved this article at Zero Hedge yesterday. It's going to be staggering. That's the quote. Epstein associates prepare for worst as massive document dump imminent. As the Jeffrey Epstein case continues to unfold, a laundry list of celebrities, business magnates, and socialites who have flown anywhere near the registered sex offender's orbit are now tainted with pedopolonium. Many of them, such as Bill Clinton, Ehud Barak, and Victoria's Secret boss Les Wexner, have sought to distance themselves from Epstein and his activities. However, their attempts have fallen on deaf ears considering their extensive ties to the pedophile. As Vanity Fair's Gabrielle Sherman notes, the questions about Epstein are metastasizing much faster than they can be answered. Who knew what about Epstein's alleged abuse? How and from whom did Epstein get his supposed $500 million fortune? Why did Acosta grant Epstein an outrageously lenient non-prosecution agreement? And what does it mean that Acosta was reportedly told Epstein, quote, belonged to intelligence? Also illuminating is a statement by attorney Brad Edwards, who said during a Wednesday press conference seated next to Epstein accuser Courtney Wild that, quote, there were other business associates of Mr. Epstein's who engaged in improper sexual misconduct at one or more of the homes. We do know that, adding in due time the names are going to start coming out. What's more, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit will release approximately 2,000 pages of documents, likely over the next several days, which may reveal sex crimes committed by numerous prominent American politicians, powerful business executives, foreign presidents, a well-known prime minister, and other world leaders. The documents were filed during a civil defamation lawsuit brought by Epstein accuser Virginia Roberts Guffrey, a former Mar-a-Lago locker room attendant against Epstein's former girlfriend and alleged madam, Ghislaine Maxwell. Nobody who was around Epstein a lot is going to have an easy time now. It's all going to come out. Another person involved, David Boyce, another person involved with litigation against Epstein, told me it's going to be staggering the amount of names. It's going to be a contagion. It's going to be contagion numbers. Other famous names associated with Epstein include LinkedIn co-founder Reid Hoffman, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, who Musk introduced to the registered sex offender. Zuckerberg, spokesman, told Vanity Fair Mark met Epstein in passing one time at a dinner honoring scientists that was not organized by Epstein. Mark did not communicate with Epstein again following the dinner. Musk told the magazine, "I don't recall introducing Epstein to anyone, and I don't know the guy well enough to do so. Epstein is obviously a creep, and Zuckerberg is not a friend of mine." According to one source, Epstein had a steady stream of who's who flowing into his Manhattan mansion, including Bill Gates, Larry Summers, and Steve Bannon. Jeffrey collected people. That's what he did, a source told Vanity Fair. Washington, D.C. reportedly is on edge. Epstein bragged about his contacts in Washington. According to the report, one theory circulating among prominent Republicans is that Epstein was a Mossad agent. Another is that George W. Bush White House directed Acosta not to prosecute Epstein to protect Prince Andrew on behalf of the British government. The royal family did everything they could to try to discredit the Prince Andrew stuff. When we tried to follow up with anything, we were stonewalled. We wanted to interview him. They were unwilling to do anything. My point on this is, I don't know. I mean, these reports are going to start getting more and more almost unbelievable. But that doesn't mean you have to immediately discount them, because we are talking about President Bill Clinton is involved in this. He's ensnared in this. When you start getting to, somebody in an office as high up as the President of the United States, and the evidence against Bill Clinton is overwhelming, stories are going to start to become things I think that the average American just would rather not ever believe to be true. But those who have been making the laws we live under apparently may be corrupt. Huh. Imagine that. Johnny Cash Friday, back in a moment.
It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Hi, folks. Paul Harrell here. For those that can't catch Conduit News Radio with me on the radio every morning from 6 a.m. to 8, don't panic. You can always listen anytime on our digital platforms using your smartphone or computer. In this video, I'm here to help you navigate to the many options you have to watch or listen to the show across our digital platforms.
First, you can catch the show on Facebook. Just use your internet browser and type in facebook.com/Conduit News. From there, select Videos on the left side of your screen. From there, you can watch the full 2-hour show each day or select specific interviews you want to watch. Another place you can watch the show is on YouTube. Just use your internet browser and type in youtube.com. Then, in the search bar, search for Conduit News. Select the Conduit News page as it appears. While here, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell to receive notifications when new videos are ready. From YouTube, you can also watch every live show daily and all the interviews I have with guests. More options are available at our website, conduitnews.com. Select the Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell tab. Here, you can watch each day's show live or watch old episodes and interviews. You can also catch audio-only versions of the show right here on this page of the website. For audio-only versions of the show, you have some options. For Apple iPhone users, simply use the podcast app and search Conduit News. Subscribe to the podcast and get each hour of the show automatically in your app daily. You can also download the SoundCloud app from your app store and search Conduit News to find your station. And that goes for Android users as well. Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We want to make sure you get the latest on Arkansas news and politics. You have many options to know what government is doing in your name and with your tax dollars. Learn more at conduitnews.com. But and I know, we're not necessarily talking, well, maybe feel free, to talk about the ethical problem with this, because that's really what I think this is. Political views aside, if you've got a politician who's on the far right that wants lower taxes or maybe wants to pass a tax cut during the special election, or you've got, most of the time, these politicians want to pass tax increases. And this study is very well done, again, from 1981 to 2018. Regardless of where you stand, the concept of good government, we want these democratic elections to mean something. And so you would think, regardless of what you believe personally as an elected official, that you want the largest sample of the people you govern to come to the ballot box. And the reality is, according to this study, in a special election, you get an average of 19% voter turnout versus 44%, according to your numbers, if you were to hold it during a general election. And so, I have called it deception, Jeremy, because I think that's really kind of what it is. I don't think it's ethical to do this when, we're talking about the people's money.
Yeah, that's something that with the data we tried to get some information about, why are these being held at different times? But I couldn't really find anything on that. So as an economist, I can't really comment on, why they're doing this. I can just talk about what's the result. I think one important thing to remember here with sales taxes is that the Tax Foundation in Washington, D.C. just released a report this month. They do an update every 6 months on what states have the highest sales tax rates when you take the state rate and add in all the local rates. And Arkansas now, for the first time, has the highest sales tax rate in the country. We're tied with Tennessee at about 9.5%. So we have the highest sales tax rate in the country when you take account of local rates. And so, part of my motivation for looking at this is to say, why is that?
Yeah.
Why do we have such a high sales tax rate? And when you look at Tennessee, they don't have an income tax. So among states which have an income tax, we have by far the highest sales tax. And I think that this is, we're not the only state that allows this, but Arkansas has very loose restrictions about when these can be held, when these elections can be held, what they can be about. So I think this is at least part of the reason that we have such high sales tax rates here is because there's just a lot of discretion for local governments to hold these elections. And I should also say that, I've been called to testify about some of these.
Real quick on the Jeffrey Epstein stuff. Who in the world, who wants to think, how many people do you think he's going to bring down? Now that he is in jail, remember with Rusty Cranford? They arrested Rusty Cranford, the lobbyist here in Arkansas, who was kind of the linchpin to everything. And once they arrested him for trying to hire a contract killer to murder a government witness, he last 3 weeks before he took a plea? So I guess, the fact that you got Jeffrey Epstein that's now in a 100-square-foot cell or whatever he's in, you got to think maybe he's going to crack sooner, and he's going to be like, okay, I'll make a deal, We gotta go. I've only got 10 seconds. Okay, we get one more hour coming your way next, folks. More Johnny Cash music.
It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Hi, folks. Paul Harrell here. For those that can't catch Conduit News Radio with me on the radio every morning from 6 a.m. to 8, don't panic. You can always listen anytime on our digital platforms using your smartphone or computer. In this video, I'm here to help you navigate to the many options you have to watch or listen to the show across our digital platforms. First, you can catch the show on Facebook. Just use your internet browser and type in facebook.com/Conduit News. From there, select Videos on the left side of your screen. From there, you can watch the full 2-hour show each day or select specific interviews you want to watch. Another place you can watch the show is on YouTube. Just use your internet browser and type in youtube.com. Then, in the search bar, search for Conduit News. Select the Conduit News page as it appears. While here, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell to receive notifications when new videos are ready. From YouTube, you can also watch every live show daily and all the interviews I have with guests. More options are available at our website, conduitnews.com. Select the Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell tab. Here, you can watch each day's show live or watch old episodes and interviews. You can also catch audio-only versions of the show right here on this page of the website. For audio-only versions of the show, you have some options. For Apple iPhone users, simply use the podcast app and search Conduit News. Subscribe to the podcast and get each hour of the show automatically in your app daily. You can also download the SoundCloud app from your app store and search Conduit News to find your station. And that goes for Android users as well. Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We want to make sure you get the latest on Arkansas news and politics. You have many options to know what government is doing in your name and with your tax dollars. Learn more at conduitnews.com.
Bills have been proposed, and groups like the Arkansas Municipal League, they're actually okay with this change as long as there are provisions in it to allow, if there's a tornado and they need to raise taxes to help pay for that, for emergencies, and the bills have included that. The Municipal League, which is the main kind of lobbying group for city governments, they're actually okay with these changes, but still hasn't gone through.
Well, I hope we can get another shot at it. I like how you have the percentages, but you also have the total number of special elections from 1981 to 2018, 798 elections. Which, special or others. Now, talk about the cost of that, right? Because there's also an added cost of taxpayer money to put on a special election.
Right. So this is something where we didn't have data on all, 1,000 elections, but we had a number that we could find data on. And so we said, what's kind of the average cost, depending on the population size, multiplied by how many of these there have been, and we estimate that the total cost has been about $10 million over that. It's over a 30-year time period. So in some sense, maybe $10 million isn't very much, but this is an additional cost that cities and counties are incurring. If you hold it during the general election, there's no cost to doing it, right? So for a city, maybe for a smaller city, maybe it costs $20,000 to do this. That's $20,000 that's in some sense completely unnecessary. It's just one more line on the general election ballot or the primary election, but they're going out of their way to have a completely separate election, which is a cost whether the thing passes or not. So we did find that it varies depending on the size of the electorate, but we found close to $10 million of additional costs that cities and counties have incurred since the 1980s.
So back to your previous point about Arkansas now having the highest sales tax in the nation, or tied with Tennessee. The distinction there would be that Tennessee has no income tax, right?
Right. They have no income tax, and their property taxes they're a little higher than us, but they're pretty comparable. So on property tax, about the same. On sales tax, we're the same, but they have no income tax. So that's a
loaded question.
That's a big difference.
Loaded question.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers.
They seem to be in full-scale retreat from spending cuts.
and are talking about raising people's taxes again. And I have only one thing to say to the tax increasers. Go ahead, make my day. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Those who would trade our freedom for security have embarked on this downward course. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is on now.
I know I'm not supposed to do this, but and when I mean this, I'm just saying, talk radio hosts like to pretend that other talk radio hosts don't exist. I don't really do that. For example, Rush Limbaugh. Did anybody listen to Rush Limbaugh yesterday? And again, another thing talk radio hosts are not supposed to do, but, I mean, it's Rush. So, I mean, obviously this thought would be futile. I was thinking yesterday, if I had to recommend one source. Now, I know this may shock some of you, because there's so many sources out there. But if I had to recommend one source to somebody who was my age as to what the truth in politics really is, and they had enough time to actually listen, to be kind of woken up, if you will, from a mainstream media haze where there is an embargo on the truth, I would recommend they listen to Rush for like a week or 2 weeks or a month. Seriously, I would, because I was listening to him yesterday, and I was like, his grasp on events, because he's been doing this so long, he knows how to not let the left get away with anything. It's similar to what I have attempted to do here in Arkansas when it comes to remembering what your local politicians say, because most people don't want to hold them accountable versus what they say versus what actually happened, and that's what I've tried to do. But yesterday, Rush Limbaugh said this in response to people freaking out over North Carolina saying send her back. CNN and the other talking heads were saying this. They are saying that Republicans are in a slow self-destruction mode supporting the president as much as they do, because in the long term, supporting crowds or supporting the Make America Great Again agenda or the Keep America Great Again agenda, quote, this could be suicidal to the Republican Party. Okay. Which led Rush to go off and say this, quote, why is it not suicidal when Republicans get forcibly kicked out of, spat upon at restaurants? Why is it not suicidal for the Democrats when Black Lives Matter advocates shooting cops? Why is it not suicidal for the Democrats when they defend Antifa? The most recent example in Oregon, Portland, Oregon, where the cops were ordered to stand aside while people were assaulted and businesses were destroyed. Why does none of that, why isn't that ever said to be suicidal for the Democrats? Why does none of the stuff that makes send her back pale in comparison, that pales in comparison to the actual activity, the assaults, the attacks, the damage done to businesses in Ferguson, Missouri, Baltimore? Why does the media never say, man, this is not good for the Democrats, that's a suicidal move? That's when I had the thought yesterday. I said, it's incredible to me. And I had the same thing as well. I had the same kind of thought process as well. But my own thought was, everyone is so outraged at send her back, send her back, send her back. Because why? Because I think a lot of people are like, you know what, the principle that's kind of undergirded in a lot of truth in terms of what people actually feel is, if you want America to be communist, maybe this isn't the place. If you hate America, maybe you should just, stop. The idea of, if you don't like it, go somewhere else. You have the freedom to do so. There's a lot of people that have that sentiment. And yet then they started chanting "Send her back," and all of a sudden that made everybody uncomfortable. But the Democrats are the party of murdering babies. I'm sorry to bring it back to that, but they constantly want to take the moral high ground. And yet they're the party of death. I mean, if the Democrats have their way, you don't even get to choose where you get to live because you're not born. Just a thought, anyway. 870-275-9799. All right, let's move on. About 4 weeks ago, the Arkansas Legislative, it wasn't the ALC, was it? Was it ALC or was it? Yeah, I think it was. Arkansas legislators, let's just say, met in Little Rock, and they were questioning the Arkansas State Police over their interpretation of essentially Act 746, which says that in order for the state to charge you or convict you of carrying a weapon, they have to be able to prove that you are on your way to do something unlawful with that weapon, which means that carrying a weapon in Arkansas is decriminalized because the standard of proof is so high. How do you prove unlawful intent, carrying concealed or unconcealed, with or without a permit? And this has made the Arkansas State Police upset for money. I've also argued maybe there may be a racial component here, not wanting to admit that people can carry weapons in Arkansas open or concealed without a permit or a permission slip from the government. So, we've had several segments on this, but we haven't actually ever played for you much of this video, and that's what I would like to do. Let's go ahead and cue this up. Here's State Representative John Payton questioning Bill Bryant from the Arkansas State Police. Listen to this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I really appreciate y'all being here, and the information that's been provided in the packet has answered a lot of questions for us. But what drew my interest was some scuttlebutt on social media and stuff like that about changes in the application and language, and of course, you know, it seems that a lot of that language has probably been there for some time, but it has drawn new notice. So I'd like to ask a couple of questions, basically for the record. Does Arkansas State Police recognize a citizen's right to possess a firearm, concealed or unconcealed, without having a concealed handgun carry license?
Representative Payton, as far as the concealed handgun license, that is a statute, and we're required by the statute that was passed by the General Assembly in 1995 to adhere to that statute of concealed handgun license.
That wasn't my question. Does the Arkansas State Police recognize an Arkansan's right to possess a firearm, concealed or unconcealed, without the issuance of a license, without having the concealed handgun license?
I believe, in my mind, I did answer the question, but you know, I know the General Assembly passed a resolution, and of course, you know, you are allowed to carry a weapon. But as far as concealed, I think the statute says you can carry a concealed license. Concealed handgun. You must have a concealed handgun carry license.
So your answer would be no?
I think it's yes and then no. Yes, as far as the ability to carry a weapon without a license, but if it's concealed, we must follow the statute.
So the Arkansas State Police does not recognize an Arkansan's right to carry a concealed handgun without a license. Is that what you're saying?
I believe the statute says that, sir.
Okay. Well, I'm asking about your interpretation of the statute. But so the right to carry unconcealed in your mind, at what point would we take that right away from?
That is not what, that is what a 1995 statute sets up that framework. But in 2013, that statute was essentially made null and void because carrying a weapon was decriminalized. And this opinion by the Arkansas State Police head contradicts the Attorney General's opinion that she wrote when she was directly asked by the late Senator Linda Collins, asked, can you give me the penalty in the code if you are carrying a weapon concealed without a license? What's the penalty? There is no penalty. That's what the Attorney General's decision said. Then you have the court case, Taft versus the state of Arkansas, which in dicta says that you cannot arrest someone or detain somebody just based on the fact that somebody says that they have a weapon, because carrying a weapon is not illegal in the state of Arkansas. Okay? So we have the state police, this executive branch, disagreeing with the legislature and disagreeing with the judicial branch. They're flying in the face of the other two branches and what they've said on this. Also, there's been additional legislative clarification with 2 resolutions saying that they agree with the Taft case and that Arkansas is a constitutional carry state and you don't need a permit. I wish somebody would have asked Colonel Bryant more specifically, what is it in that resolution they disagree with? And what I mean, because we really can't ever get them to say, no, we don't recognize your right. Keep going with this video.
From a citizen.
I believe that the act, everybody is with the intent. If you intend to violate unlawfully carrying a weapon, if you have that intent to commit a crime.
They really don't even want to admit this.
I think, the governor put out some guidance on that as far as open carry, because we've had no court decision. So we follow that guidance until we have a clear court case.
Have had a clear court case.
So
that's not true.
When we talk about
you just don't want to admit what the court case
application process and the issuance of a concealed handgun license, and we recognize at any point, any level, a citizen has a right to possess a firearm without that license, the more cumbersome and invasive that we make the application process, would you agree that the more cumbersome or invasive that the application process is, the more it would discourage Arkansans from going through the process and having the background check and obtaining a concealed handgun license?
As the director of the Arkansas State Police or any law enforcement officers, we follow the rule of law, which is the statute that was passed by this General Assembly. So we follow the laws that were passed by the General Assembly.
They are ignoring the 2013 statute.
Okay. Well, I'll be happy, Mr. Chair, to surrender and get back in the queue at any point you want to stop me.
What does it say about? I mean, this is our law enforcement. It's just the head law enforcement agency in the entire state. What is it? I mean, to look at I know, I'm sure Bill Bryant. I've talked to people. I mean, he's a nice guy. He's a good guy. He's being directed to say what he's saying. Okay, honestly, he is. But for the chief law enforcement officer to just look at that committee, look at the people's representatives in the face, and knowingly just ignore 2013 and what happened with State Representative Denny Altus's bill, just to ignore it and to leave out what we all know is the elephant in the room, that what happened in 1995 doesn't matter, but what happened in 2013 does. When it comes to this issue, it's really discouraging because we want consistent government here in Arkansas, and this is manufactured confusion. Keep going.
But this exhibit that you gave us, D1, about the issue and the short answer, it gives some of the language that came into question on social media.
All right, skip forward from this because
where the application says a waiver authorizing the department access to any medical, criminal, or other records concerning the application permitting process and to all of the applicant's criminal records. That is a quote from the law. Specify what federal and state agencies you may need to obtain records from. The first one is U.S. Citizenship, Immigration Services. Second.
This is not, I mean, honestly, I don't want to put state police in a bad spot, except for the fact that you said that. And so now I get asked all the time, right? That people reach out to me all the time to tell me whether you can carry concealed or not concealed without a permit. I mean, it's a regular occurrence on social media. I get asked probably at least once a week about it. And so, the rule of strict construction would say if you're going to enforce a criminal penalty, which carrying a firearm without the carrying of a firearm that used to be, used to be a crime that's criminal penalty. If you're going to enforce it, it's got to be, under the rule of strict construction, you got to be real clear. So what code section prohibits a person from carrying concealed without a permit?
If I may, we are speaking in hypotheticals. And
No, we're not. No, I'm talking about the law. Right, so under the law, what code section says you can't carry a gun without a permit?
I'm only saying that we're speaking in hypotheticals because there's not an instance that I believe anyone has brought to our attention of state police enforcing a code section in a manner other than you suggest might be, or that Representative Payton suggested might be appropriate under the law. So if we were to look at 573-120, where it says that the possession, carrying a weapon unless with unlawful intent to employ it as a weapon against a person. The subsections of that provision, it's, as you know, as an attorney, we have to read it as a whole, taking each word as intended by the legislature. So you have several subsections that are exceptions. One of those exceptions is if you are carrying a weapon concealed and you are a concealed license holder.
It's nonsense.
So the alternative would be, if it's an exception to that, to be a licensed concealed carry holder and you're carrying concealed. Alternatively, it may be determined by an officer on the scene that because you're carrying concealed and you're not a concealed carry license holder, that you have unlawful intent to employ. That may be a determination that is made
that is banana
based on the
republic
totality
nonsense.
of the circumstances on the scene.
Yes, but never consistent under the law, because if this was a civil judgment, I understand, right? Because now it's ambiguous. We've got to try to interpret it. You're going to take those code sections. You're going to say, okay, if we're going to give this meaning in the exception, but that's not what we're dealing with. We're dealing with criminal, and they're criminal. It's strict construction, and the only reason why an officer on the scene may come up with that interpretation is because of the confusion that comes from the state, and probably the primary. The individual entity most guilty is us, and frankly, you, is the state police. The last person who asked me about this said, I asked the state police, and the state police said, that they feel like you can carry, I think it was open, without a permit, but you need to go ask your local law enforcement. That's not the way law works. The law is either it's legal or it's illegal. If it's ambiguous of whether it's legal to carry without a permit, they're the defendant. It's criminal law. The answer is it is legal to carry without a permit. And I'm totally open. If someone can point to me something other to the contrary, but if we're going to enforce a criminal penalty, you better have a code section saying that's a crime, right?
Okay, this is, it sounds like it's not a question that we're
all right,
headed,
and then you got Democrat Keith Ingram bailing out the Arkansas State Police.
Go ahead,
stop.
Statement, but I've got.
Yeah, you get the Keith Ingram kind of bailing out, but Senator Ballinger doing an excellent job there, highlighting the ridiculousness, the deception. I mean, that's what it's the deception. The Arkansas State Police trying to deceive the Arkansas Legislative Council 4 weeks ago, and it's about your rights. They're talking about your rights. Unbelievable. Wayne on Facebook, where's my hip waders? Yeah, because we're wading through a bunch of bull. That's exactly right. We got to take a break. Back in a moment.
It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Hi, folks. Paul Harrell here. For those that can't catch Conduit News Radio with me on the radio every morning from 6 a.m. to 8, don't panic. You can always listen anytime on our digital platforms using your smartphone or computer. In this video, I'm here to help you navigate to the many options you have to watch or listen to the show across our digital platforms. First, you can catch the show on Facebook. Just use your internet browser and type in facebook.com/Conduit News. From there, select Videos on the left side of your screen. From there, you can watch the full 2-hour show each day or select specific interviews you want to watch. Another place you can watch the show is on YouTube. Just use your internet browser and type in youtube.com. Then, in the search bar, search for Conduit News. Select the Conduit News page as it appears. While here, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell to receive notifications when new videos are ready. From YouTube, you can also watch every live show daily and all the interviews I have with guests. More options are available at our website, conduitnews.com. Select the Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell tab. Here, you can watch each day's show live or watch old episodes and interviews. You can also catch audio-only versions of the show right here on this page of the website. For audio-only versions of the show, you have some options. For Apple iPhone users, simply use the podcast app and search Conduit News. Subscribe to the podcast and get each hour of the show automatically in your app daily. You can also download the SoundCloud app from your app store and search Conduit News to find your station. And that goes for Android users as well. Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We want to make sure you get the latest on Arkansas news and politics. You have many options to know what government is doing in your name and with your tax dollars. Learn more at conduitnews.com.
By how many of these there's been, and we estimate that the total cost has been about $10 million over that. It's over a 30-year time period. So, in some sense, maybe $10 million isn't very much, but this is an additional cost that cities and counties are incurring. If you hold it during the general election, there's no cost to doing it, right? So for a city, maybe for a smaller city, maybe it costs $20,000 to do this. That's $20,000 that's in some sense completely unnecessary. It's just one more line on the general election ballot or the primary election, but they're going out of their way to have a completely separate election, which is a cost whether the thing passes or not. So we did find that it varies depending on the size of the electorate, but we found close to $10 million of additional costs that cities and counties have incurred since the 1980s.
So back to your previous point about Arkansas now having the highest sales tax in the nation, or tied with Tennessee. The distinction there would be that Tennessee has no income tax, right?
Right. They have no income tax, and their property taxes they're a little higher than us, but they're pretty comparable. So on property tax, about the same. On sales tax, we're the same, but they have no income tax. So that's a
loaded question.
That's a big difference.
Loaded question. I mean, how do they do it? How do they survive on that? I mean, is it population? They got more population than us. I mean, what gives? Why can't we lower our sales tax rate?
Well, part of it is just spending is different. So they spend. It's not dramatically less, but they spend a little bit less than us per capita. They have more people, right? So for certain things, they can kind of spread the cost over more people. So that's in some sense an advantage. But as you know, I've got some other research that kind of looks at this spending and compares Arkansas to other states. And we're working on an update to that as well to kind of look in more detail about,
Congressman Bruce Westerman will be on the program when we come back from break. That video, we still didn't do it justice, by the way. You need to watch the whole thing if you haven't. We'll be putting it up over at the Conduit News YouTube page. So be watching out for that. Also, we really appreciate Dr. Horpedahl coming on the program yesterday and educating us about special elections and the research that the Arkansas Center for Research and Economics has done, how valuable it is, and why I believe special elections must stop. Also, in other news, Tucker Carlson reports on the new allegations about Omar's marital history. Check that out. Back in a minute.
It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Hi, folks. Paul Harrell here. For those that can't catch Conduit News Radio with me on the radio every morning from 6 a.m. to 8, don't panic. You can always listen anytime on our digital platforms using your smartphone or computer. In this video, I'm here to help you navigate to the many options you have to watch or listen to the show across our digital platforms. First, you can catch the show on Facebook. Just use your internet browser and type in facebook.com/Conduit News. From there, select Videos on the left side of your screen. From there, you can watch the full 2-hour show each day or select specific interviews you want to watch. Another place you can watch the show is on YouTube. Just use your internet browser and type in youtube.com. Then, in the search bar, search for Conduit News. Select the Conduit News page as it appears. While here, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell to receive notifications when new videos are ready. From YouTube, you can also watch every live show daily and all the interviews I have with guests. More options are available at our website, conduitnews.com. Select the Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell tab. Here, you can watch each day's show live or watch old episodes and interviews. You can also catch audio-only versions of the show right here on this page of the website. For audio-only versions of the show, you have some options. For Apple iPhone users, simply use the podcast app and search Conduit News. Subscribe to the podcast and get each hour of the show automatically in your app daily. You can also download the SoundCloud app from your app store and search Conduit News to find your station. And that goes for Android users as well. Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We want to make sure you get the latest on Arkansas news and politics. You have many options to know what government is doing in your name and with your tax dollars. Learn more at conduitnews.com.
Reported, and I know you like this paper we've written about how Arkansas state government spends a lot more than neighboring states. We're kind of trying to drill down to see why is that. What areas do we spend more on? What has increased? And so we're trying to figure that out. So, a large part of what drives the need for higher taxes is higher spending. But also, when you increase taxes, they do always find something to spend that money on. So, in some sense, it goes both ways. But the spending is the it's clearly the other side of it.
Okay, I mean, I'm glad. I appreciate that. I think that's certainly something that we've heard, even from a lot of lawmakers. In this last session, people, saying, listen, there really wasn't much talk about, getting the spending under control, or cutting spending so we don't have to raise taxes over here. And now, of course, the people are facing a net tax increase for the next couple of fiscal years or several fiscal years. Dr. Jeremy Horpadol, I always love having you on. I love your research. Please let me know, or I'll certainly be watching the ACRE website for the updated paper on spending and what separates Arkansas from our neighbors. And really appreciate the work you do, sir.
Well, thanks, Paul. I appreciate you having me on, and I hope you have a good day.
Yes, sir. Have a great day. Folks, we're going to make a separate YouTube video of this. It'll be up at conduitnews.com. Again, I want to go over these numbers one more time. Throw this up. Can you throw this up real quick? I want to end here. Arkansas local sales tax elections. Look at that graphic right there. 44% voter turnout in general elections. When you have a 44% voter turnout, you wind out with the tax increase passing 46% of the time. In a primary, you have 24% voter turnout, and the tax increase passes 61% of the time. In a special election, you have a 19% voter turnout, again, from 1981 to 2018, and a 76% passage rate for the tax increase. This is why communities like Fort Smith and Jonesboro try to do special elections, because they know that if they do a special election, there's less voter turnout, and there's a higher probability that the tax increase will be passed. I think that is wrong. What do you think?
I understand, I think the committee does where you're headed. Any other thing that you want to add?
Yeah, I would just say that if you have a code section that says it's a crime to carry concealed without a permit, then I'd like to see it. I would really love to see that kind of clarity come up from the state and instead of still pushing confusion out.
Representative Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate y'all being here, number one. Appreciate what you do and this agency. While we may have some, I don't know if I can get in closer to it or not. All right. I'll just talk loud. Anyway, like I said, I appreciate y'all, appreciate the folks that work for your agency. And when we do, we desperately need clarity. I think you can go talk to county law enforcement officers, sheriff's departments all around. They interpret, seems to me like the majority of them that I've heard from are saying, yes, you can legally carry concealed without a permit. Now I'm not a lawyer, and I don't know how to use big words, but I guess what my question is, number one, and this is getting off of that, but number one, going back to how does our concealed carry permit process, our application, compare with, say, other surrounding states, Oklahoma primarily, Texas and so forth? How do we compare with what they do, number one? And then, answer that and I'll have a follow-up.
I actually don't have an answer for you. This was asked of us last week. It's not something that we have looked into. The variable structures of concealed carry licensing across the United States there's a wide variety of how that works. And we've not looked into it, and as I understand it, Representative Sullivan had thought to maybe pose that question to BLR and have them look into it in the interim.
Okay. So, okay. All right. Next question. Obviously, and you say y'all enforce the statute that was passed by the General Assembly, which, we have to recognize and honor and appreciate. None of us were here when the statute was passed concerning the concealed carry permit. And I just want this answered for the record so maybe we can protect all of us in here. Would the state police oppose more clarification being and maybe a narrowing of that statute in the upcoming session as opposed to leaving it wide open and as broad as it is? Would the state police oppose that?
Mr. Co-Chair, in the past, I think we've shown the state police has worked closely with the General Assembly on some of the stuff. We would, but also since we are part of the executive branch, we would have to work with the governor's office, and I think we would always been good team players. We will move to address and address any clarity that might need it in the law.
Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.
If I may add, the purpose of the statute, written the way that it currently is, gives us the ability to investigate the requirements as they exist. If the requirements for licensure remain the same, we do need an ability to obtain records to verify a person's eligibility.
Stop.
If those requirements change,
welcome back
then
to the program. We're waiting. Congressman Bruce Westerman is supposed to call in. Is scheduled to be on the show today. Can't wait to talk to him. By the way, hope it works out. I'm sure there is. I know he's a very busy guy. We're going to keep going with this video, though. This is actually good because I wanted to get through some more of this. Why is the Arkansas State Police refusing to acknowledge what the law says? And are we to assume that the Arkansas State Police does not believe that new laws change old laws? Does that make sense? meaning surely the Arkansas State Police doesn't believe that if you pass a law in 1995, it can never be undone by a future act of the General Assembly. Surely the Arkansas State Police doesn't believe that. That's not how government works, right? We can always go back and reverse things, and that's what we did in 2013. That was reversed. The law was changed. The law's different now. The statute's different now. It doesn't read the same. Prosecutors won't take people to trial. Judges have made rulings. The Attorney General has issued an opinion. What gives? So my question still remains on this. Why? Is it because of money? Well, I think definitely that's one aspect of this, is the Arkansas State Police gets a certain dollar figure from people who think they have to have a permission slip. Now, I have tried to tell the good folks at the Arkansas State Police, guys, because the law is different, all you have to do is market your license differently. You don't need one to carry in Arkansas however you want to carry. You don't. But it's still really good for reciprocity in other states that are not as free as Arkansas. And that's exactly, if I'm the Arkansas State Police, that's what I do. I would spend some money on some ad campaigns, educating the people as to what the law is, that you don't need this to carry in Arkansas, but if you travel outside the state, there are other places outside the state that aren't as free as we are here in the state of Arkansas. It'd be a thing. It would do so much goodwill to the people of Arkansas. Now, not only would they know even more people would know what the law is. People would be like, yeah, Arkansas, we are free to carry weapons. More free than the other states around us. But you know what? We still need that permission slip if we want to go to Florida this year and protect my family while I'm driving through Mississippi or Alabama or Florida or wherever. Then you know what? I'm going to go ahead and get that permit. You want to stabilize your revenue? That's the way. Now, I have a suspicion that it may be something a little worse than that, which is, I've asked it several times, and I'll ask it again until I'm blue in the face. Is there a potential insecurity or worry that if everybody finds out that you can carry a weapon open or concealed without a permission slip from the government, that it might be bad for crime? Or there may be some people that don't want certain neighborhoods, lower socioeconomic neighborhoods, to know what their rights are. Is it a racial component here to not admit publicly what the law is? I mean, it's an honest question, and I hate to even ask it, but you know what? I like many of you, am tired of this debate when it's been proven over and over and over again in a court case, in an attorney general's opinion, at the very beginning of the opinion. The attorney general went on in that opinion to ask for clarity, so the legislature gave them clarity with 2 resolutions from each chamber that agreed with the court case. What more do you need? What more do you need to be honest with your citizens that you govern about what the law says and permits? No pun intended. Let's go back to the video. More from this video 4 weeks ago. Listen.
Likewise, we could see it would depend on what the actual substance of the legislation is. Does that make sense?
Sure, absolutely.
Legalese.
I think more than likely we're going to deal with that, in a couple of years or whatever. Somebody will.
There doesn't need to be anything done. Stop.
Thank y'all very much.
I just want to say this. There doesn't need to be anything else legislatively done at all. There doesn't need to be anything else legislatively done at all. The law is clear. The legislature has given that clarity if there was any confusion. We now have bureaucrats who just refuse to admit what the status of Arkansas gun laws are. Legislature doesn't need to do anything else. The only thing we need to do is get people in there that are going to be honest with the citizens that they're policing and governing. Keep going.
Senator Rice, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I was going to let, there's enough questions being asked, but I was sent this. Do you agree or disagree with the judge's ruling on the Taft case that said merely possessing a weapon is not a crime in the state of Arkansas?
From visiting, I'm not an attorney, but visiting with my attorneys, they felt that case more addressed reasonable suspicion than it did concerning whether carrying a concealed weapon. But again, that's a novice from what my attorneys are advising me at the state police.
The question was merely, the judge said, merely possessing a weapon is not a crime in the state of Arkansas, meaning it's no reason for you to be stopped. It's no reason for you to be arrested, detained. It's not a crime in the state of Arkansas. Keep going.
So what your attorney said a while ago, or somebody said, because it hadn't been tested, you can't go further in stating that. Y'all are waiting for it to be tested in court beyond this.
Besides just a lower court, we haven't got anything from the Arkansas Supreme Court.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Representative Womack.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Colonel Bryant, I'm curious, do you have that code that I never heard back from you that Senator Ballinger asked for that showed criminal intent? I mean, not criminal intent, but clearly makes it illegal. I mean, if you have that code, I'd love to know what it is, and then I have a follow-up.
I believe Ms. McLaurin said it was 573-311, or which one?
So do you mind sharing with me that specific language that makes that a clear crime?
Well, I would agree with Senator Ballinger and with you that it could be somewhat confusing, but the other principles of statutory construction do state that you have to read the statute as a whole, and so we can't just cut it into pieces. It's 573-120. 573-120 says that carrying a weapon it's unlawful it's a crime if you're carrying it with the unlawful intent to employ it as a weapon against another person. And that has a lot of exceptions. So it's not a crime if you are a concealed carry license holder and you're carrying the firearm concealed. My understanding of that language is that
so you differ with the judge.
The converse would be true. If you're not a concealed carry license holder and you're carrying concealed, it might be demonstration of unlawful intent. Senator Ballinger was correct.
I want to just stop you.
No, stop. This is insulting because we're talking about your natural God-given right to self-preservation and defense, and this is they think this is a game. They think this is a game, folks. This is not a game. These are your rights here. This is a very important one, too. And you've got lawyers just doing their little legalese gymnastics, and they think that they can just explain your right away, and it's offensive, and this has got to stop. Continue.
We're kind of going back over the same ground here, and that was not my intent. I think the answer was no. Like, you don't have clear language there, which, going back to where Representative Ballinger went, when it comes to a criminal charge, you have to have that. So if you don't have that, and I'm assuming you don't, right? Like you've had three opportunities now to state this is the language that's plain as day that makes this illegal. And I'm not trying to be ugly. I'm really looking for a yes or no answer because, you stated your opinion and how you interpret it, and of course everybody in this room can have the same thing. So I'm just going to move to my follow-up, really, Colonel Bryant, because I don't think you're going to give us the answer that we all know is you don't have that language. Colonel Bryant, why do you refuse to acknowledge the fact that you don't have that language in code anywhere?
Again, I believe it's the interpretation that I depend on our lawyers at the state police of that statute. And we've hashed it over, but I think it's the totality of the circumstances. But
okay, it just amazes me that that's good enough for you to not have law that you're asking your officers to enforce against the people of the state of Arkansas. That really blows my mind.
Representative Womack, we don't want your mind blown, but we would like to represent Senator Stubblefield at this point.
Again, we have a bailout there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Bailout from the
Colonel
Democrats.
Bryant,
Stop.
would you agree with me that it is...
Okay, we're going to take a break. We're going to reset here. Don't go anywhere. Back in just a moment, folks. Thanks so much for listening. We got your meme of the day coming up next.
It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Hi, folks. Paul Harrell here. For those that can't catch Conduit News Radio with me on the radio every morning from 6 a.m. to 8, don't panic. You can always listen anytime on our digital platforms using your smartphone or computer. In this video, I'm here to help you navigate to the many options you have to watch or listen to the show across our digital platforms. First, you can catch the show on Facebook. Just use your internet browser and type in facebook.com/Conduit News. From there, select Videos on the left side of your screen. From there, you can watch the full 2-hour show each day or select specific interviews you want to watch. Another place you can watch the show is on YouTube. Just use your internet browser and type in youtube.com. Then, in the search bar, search for Conduit News. Select the Conduit News page as it appears. While here, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell to receive notifications when new videos are ready. From YouTube, you can also watch every live show daily and all the interviews I have with guests. More options are available at our website, conduitnews.com. Select the Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell tab. Here, you can watch each day's show live or watch old episodes and interviews. You can also catch audio-only versions of the show right here on this page of the website. For audio-only versions of the show, you have some options. For Apple iPhone users, simply use the podcast app and search Conduit News. Subscribe to the podcast and get each hour of the show automatically in your app daily. You can also download the SoundCloud app from your app store and search Conduit News to find your station. And that goes for Android users as well. Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We want to make sure you get the latest on Arkansas news and politics. You have many options to know what government is doing in your name and with your tax dollars. Learn more at conduitnews.com.
Reported, and I know you like this paper we've written about how Arkansas state government spends a lot more than neighboring states. We're kind of trying to drill down to see why is that. What areas do we spend more on? What has increased? And so we're trying to figure that out. So, a large part of what drives the need for higher taxes is higher spending. But also, when you increase taxes, they do always find something to spend that money on. So, in some sense, it goes both ways. But the spending is the it's clearly the other side of it.
Okay, I mean, I'm glad. I appreciate that. I think that's certainly something that we've heard, even from a lot of lawmakers, in this last session, people, saying, listen, there really wasn't much talk about, getting the spending under control, or cutting spending so we don't have to raise taxes over here. And now, of course, the people are facing a net tax increase for the next couple of fiscal years or several fiscal years. Dr. Jeremy Horpadol, I always love having you on. I love your research. Please let me know, or I'll certainly be watching the ACRE website for the updated paper on spending and what separates Arkansas from our neighbors. And really appreciate the work you do, sir.
Well, thanks, Paul. I appreciate you having me on, and I hope you have a good day.
Yes, sir. Have a great day. Folks, we're going to make a separate YouTube video of this. It'll be up at conduitnews.com. Again, I want to go over these numbers one more time. Throw this up. Can you throw this up real quick? I want to end here. Arkansas local sales tax elections. Look at that graphic right there. 44% voter turnout in general elections. When you have a 44% voter turnout, you wind out with the tax increase passing 46% of the time. In a primary,
you have 24% voter turnout, and the tax increase passes 61% of the time. In a special election, you have a 19% voter turnout, again, from 1981 to 2018, and a 76% passage rate for the tax increase. This is why communities like Fort Smith and Jonesboro try to do special elections, because they know that if they do a special election, there's less voter turnout, and there's a higher probability that the tax increase will be passed. I think that is wrong. What do you think?
It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Hi, folks. Paul Harrell here. For those that can't catch Conduit News Radio with me on the radio every morning from 6 a.m. to 8, don't panic. You can always listen anytime on our digital platforms using your smartphone or computer. In this video, I'm here to help you navigate to the many options you have to watch or listen to the show across our digital platforms. First, you can catch the show on Facebook. Just use your internet browser and type in facebook.com/Conduit News. From there, select Videos on the left side of your screen. From there, you can watch the full 2-hour show each day or select specific interviews you want to watch. Another place you can watch the show is on YouTube. Just use your internet browser and type in youtube.com. Then, in the search bar, search for Conduit News. Select the Conduit News page as it appears. While here, be sure to hit the subscribe
What's
button
the meme of the
and
day?
hit.
All right, so it's time for your meme of the day on this Johnny Cash Friday. Here we go. We got the classic liberal big eyes woman, courtesy of what is this? Courtesy of Superhero Don on Instagram. 2016, if Trump wins the election, I'm leaving the country. 2019, OMG, Trump told me to leave the country? Impeach. Impeach. Impeach him now. It's been an interesting week, man. Mixed bag. It'll be interesting to see what the Sunday talk shows say, you know. The Sunday talk shows that I don't watch because I'm in church. Telephone number 870-275-9799. If you want to, you can call or text that number, leave a voicemail anytime you want. Hey, we heard back. We were supposed to talk to Congressman Bruce Westerman this morning, so my apologies. Just like we always do, we have everything confirmed. But I've heard from his office, and there's been just a little bit of a hiccup, and they are on it. We are rescheduling the interview, so we will be talking with Bruce soon. And anyway, I appreciate the office for staying on top of all this. And Bruce, I know Bruce gets really busy, but something came up at the last minute, and that's what happens when you're working hard for the people of Arkansas. Sometimes things, there are unforeseen circumstances, if you will. So the telephone number again, 870-275-9799. We're going to post this meme of the day at the Conduit News Twitter, at Conduit News on Twitter, and facebook.com/Conduit News. Folks, have a great weekend. Thanks for starting the beginning of your weekend with us here at the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. And as always, if you want to get this show, you can get it at conduitnews.com. Get it on Facebook. Get it on YouTube. It's available for your consumption. Podcast. 24 hours a day on demand. Just go to conduitnews.com. My name's Paul Harrell.